guys ready?
Yes.
Lily, you ready?
Yes.
You ready? Alright, I'll do this one more time and then it'll be you moving forward.
Great.
Alright, house ready?
Yep.
House is ready. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for The Lily Show, performed by and written by Lily Kerrigan as part of Nu Sass Productions' Backyard Art Series. And now, without further ado, Lily. Woo!
Thank you. I've done nothing to deserve this. I love it. I want to start by just saying thank you to the house for welcoming me into your backyard. Thank you, Aubri.
Ow!
And thank you for joining us for this, kind of weird theater. Right? Like, all of a sudden, all the live theater went away, and all of our lives changed. And all these things that we used to take for granted just went pew. So what's something that you were taking for granted that is gone now?
Bars.
Bars? Yeah? Yeah? I mean, they still exist, but like, only for irresponsible people, which, I mean, was kind of true before. Who can say? Anyway, now drinking alone is the responsible thing to do. What's something that you took for granted that you miss now?
That's a good question. Eating out.
Eating out? Yeah? Yeah. I mean, people are still doing it, but it's like, is that a good idea? I don't know that it is. For me, the thing that I was taking for granted that I miss now is going to sex clubs. Yeah, I know. Like, all these people down here are like, I know, yeah, it's rough. It's really sad. But for the people who didn't nod along in agreement, it is a real downer. It's a real downer. And if you haven't been to a sex club, it's a lot like any nightclub. There's, how a nightclub has like a bar where you can go and get drinks. A sex club, also has a bar, but it's made out of wood. And it's really narrow. It's really more like a wooden beam. And it's like 6 feet in the air, and it's held together on a structure called a hard point. And you use it to suspend people with rope. But other than that, it's exactly the same. We're relatable. I'm relatable. But it's, it's a lot like a nightclub in that, you pay a ridiculous amount of money and you go in and then you have sex on the furniture. That's what everyone does at a nightclub, right? Right? Yes, no? I'm relatable. Actually, the last time that my boyfriend, my very indulgent boyfriend Matt, who is sitting right there, who has to listen to me talk about him all show, the last time we went out before the pandemic, we got interrupted. I know. There's something about us. This happens to us a lot. We get like heckled or interrupted when we have sex in public. It's so weird. We did have a friend also once be like, I feel like you guys only come here because you like it when people watch you have sex. And I was like, what are you here for, motherfucker? The crudité? Jesus. Yes, that's why we're here. But the last time that Matt and I went out, while he was having sex with me, a man walked up and got Matt's attention. Completely didn't talk to me, ignored me. But got Matt's attention while Matt was inside me and was like, hey man, is it cool if I jerk off? Which, for those of you who have not been to a club of our sort, is actually considered very rude. There are a lot of like social mores in place. And first of all, you don't interrupt people. Nobody likes that. Second of all, it's kind of considered rude to jerk off. Because like, if anyone wanted to see your penis, you'd be having sex with someone. If you're not having sex with someone, no one wants to see your dick. You should be able to figure that out. We're classy people. We're very classy people. But Matt kind of has a different philosophy. Matt's thing is like, look, There's someone jerking off everywhere. Who am I to say in what proximity they should be to me? You know, are they 10 feet away, 100 feet away? Are they in a different state? I don't know. It's a free country. It's a free dungeon. So Matt's response to this guy is, at a distance. Matt's parents don't like me, and I can't figure out why. They have a couple of reasons. They have a few reasons. One of the things they don't like about me is that Matt and I are non-monogamous. Which, okay, I got some nice nods on that. I do feel like it's important. Matt and I always clarified that we are more open than we are poly. That we have a significant, committed romantic relationship just with each other, and then other casual partners or friends with benefits or what have you, as opposed to people who are genuinely polyamorous, who have multiple committed, loving, romantic relationships. Just because we don't want to do any cultural appropriation, you know? We're sensitive people. But, Matt's father, I don't think, would be happy with either structure. But he's definitely not happy with the one we have now. He said to Matt at one point, he scheduled a man-to-man talk for the two of them to have. And he was like, Matthew, anytime you have sex with a new person, you're adding risk. And Matt decided to make a point and was like, well, how many people have you had sex with, Dad? And his father said, 1.
Oh. Oh my.
Right? Not to prude shame, but he's basically a virgin plus 1. I don't really want to hear his opinion on my life, on my choices. I'm not interested. But Matt is not to be deterred. So Matt says, okay, well, how many people has Mom had sex with?
Oh my God.
Because Matt knew it was more than 1. Because Matt's mom had a fiance in Peru who died before she came to America. Under mysterious circumstances, we don't know exactly what happened. I like to pretend she murdered him, but that's just me. That's just me.
Yep.
So, it's gotta be more than 1. And Matt was planning to be okay, well, she shouldn't have had sex with you if she'd already had sex with someone else, because that's adding risk. And his father said, I don't know. Not many. I don't know what that means, and I don't know what not many means. I'm very curious, and very curious about everything going on here. Very curious if there was a murder. I'm just saying. Oh my God. Okay. And the Matt's father also asked him what type of non-monogamy we practiced. Which I was like, wow, okay, maybe he kind of gets it. He was like, because there are 2 types of non-monogamy. And I was like, wow, okay, he's been doing his research, Maybe he's gonna do that sort of divide between open and poly, or maybe he's even more well-versed than that, and he's gonna be there's hierarchical and non-hierarchical, or kitchen table versus compartmentalized. And I was like, wow, so Matt, what were the 2 types of non-monogamy your father mentioned? And Matt was like, no, he doesn't understand any of it. It's like if a 2-year-old told you there were 2 types of physics. Yeah, there's string theory and loop theory, but a 2-year-old doesn't know shit. His father said there are 2 types of non-monogamy, and we just want to make sure that you're not doing the one where one person arranges people for the other person to have sex with. Arranges. Okay. So apparently they think I'm just pimping Matt. He's got him walking on a street corner. And I think I should I should be offended by the implication of that, you know, I'm somehow controlling Matt, making him have sex with people he's not actually interested in. But the thing is, I actually did once set him up with a friend of mine. Her name is Lauren. She's a really nice person. So I was just like, what's wrong with my friend Lauren? They dated for a year. They were really happy. You know, she's a great part of the DC theater community. Yeah. And the only reason that they broke up was that she could go to grad school because she wants to work with refugee women. So, my friend Lauren is great, fuck you. That was not actually the problem. It wasn't a problem that he didn't like Lauren, he just doesn't like me. It's fine. His father asks Matt, you know, we just want to make sure, is all of the sex you're having consensual? Which is a hell of a thing to ask a 33-year-old man. That's just a hell of a thing. I know. I'm just gonna give everyone a minute to breathe with that. And also to explain, I want to be really clear. Matt's father didn't think that, like, Matt was out raping people. Matt's father thinks that, like, I'm raping Matt by proxy by making him have sex with other people. I don't know if that's better. I'm just saying, let's be clear about what accusation was hurled our way.
Oh my God.
Right? And Matt's understandably insulted by this question. So he's like, well, Dad, is all of the sex you're having consensual? To which his father says, yes. Sometimes Mommy pressures me into other things. But not that. Sometimes Mommy pressures me into other things. There's just a lot in that sentence. First of all, what's she pressuring him into? I'm curious. I want to know. I'm still concerned about the guy who died in Peru. You know? I'm pretty nervous about that. Also, just the whole mommy thing. Feels very Mike Pence, you know? Very like, oh, I don't love that. Don't love that. There's a lot of weird in that sentence. Sometimes Mommy pressures me into other things. But not that! So, good news. Good news for Matt's father. Another thing in the list about me that they don't like is that I am a queer. Yeah, see? Y'all like me for that.
Yay.
But they did not have the same reaction. And I'm sort of past the point in my life where I want to, like, come out and, like, have a conversation. You know, like, I just kind of dress the way I dress, and usually people figure it out. Like, I mean, I think I'm cute, but, like, I don't know that this, like, oversized sweater and men's jacket are really serving heterosexuality, you know? I'm not sure that they are. But it was at the point where Matt and I had been together for a couple of years, and his parents still didn't know. So it was kind of weird. It was like, oh, now if I, like, drop it into conversation casually, it'll be like a moment, and it's strange, and, like, now it's starting to feel like a secret that, like, I can't tell them. And I'm kind of past the point where I want to do this. So I was like, babe, you should just come out for me. You should do it. You can do it. I believe in you. It'll be easy. And he was like, oh, yeah, no problem.
Aw.
Because straight people are dumb. He was like, oh, this'll be simple. My parents are Democrats. They voted for Hillary. My mom's got a pillow with Ruth Bader Ginsburg on it. What could go wrong? So he goes over to their place, and he's like, hey, no big deal, but just wanted to let you know, Lily is queer, and just so you know, not something you really, like, have have to engage with her about, but just if it ever comes up, we don't want you to feel like you were ever lied to. So just thought I'd let you know, and you know, if you have any questions, you know, just hit me if you have any like questions or like things that you want to talk about it. And his mother immediately responded with, "I cannot deal with this. I have to go to Peru." Have to go to Peru.
Of course.
Of course. Because that's what she does whenever she's upset. She threatens to go to Peru. If she actually went through with it every time, she'd have so many frequent flyer miles. United Airlines, fly the friendly skies, away from your queer daughter-in-law. So that's her immediate reaction. And I mean, it's fair because like she is actually from Peru. It's not like if my mom was like, "I'm mad, so I'm gonna go to Peru." There's logic there, but it's still a little strange as a threat. And Matt's like, "Okay, she's having her moment, not gonna deal with that. Dad, do you have anything you want to ask or say?" His father says, "Well, I think our first question is, does she have any diseases?" I know. What do they think I have? Also, just like, what? How is that your follow-up? How is that the first thing? Like, I would expect if they were like, "Oh, you know, we're boomers, so like, what does queer mean exactly?" You know, there's a lot of discourse here. We want to make sure we get it right, but no. Does she have any diseases? Question numero uno. And Matt's like, that's a really insulting question. And his father says, "Well, you know, that community, they've had some problems with promiscuity and disease in the past."
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there, isn't there? That's not great. Not great. And Matt's just like trying to figure it out. He's like, are you talking about like the free love movement? Because that was a straight people thing. And his father says, "You don't have to tell me about free love. I was there." Sir, you're a virgin +1. And like, I have no doubt you were alive during free love. I'm sure you were on the planet. I was alive during the 2016 Winter Olympics. That doesn't mean I competed. Just saying. So Matt tries to regain control of the conversation. Regain control. And something that, okay, just so you know, it's gonna get a little dark for a minute. It's gonna be a real bummer for like 30 seconds. I always like to warn people, we're all gonna feel super sad for like 30 seconds, but I promise there's jokes at the end, okay? And I wouldn't make you sad if I didn't have jokes about it. Promise. That is my oath as a comedian. Anyway, so I was molested as a kid. It's a downer, I know. I'm fine about it. You know, it was a long time ago, and I've done a lot of therapy. It really doesn't bother me. The only thing that ever bothers me is that I think sometimes people have an urge to connect my queerness to my trauma. And that was something I was very concerned about with Matt's parents, because I had told them that I had a trauma history because they were mad at me and I was trying to distract them. It's fine. I'm a good person. Am I? I'm a little bit good. So I told Matt, like, can you just make sure that they understand that these are not related concepts? Because sometimes people think that they are. And so Matt's like, okay, I'm gonna honor that. I'm gonna take control of the conversation and be like, Lily wants you to know that this has nothing to do with what happened with her grandfather. I know, we all have to feel sad now. I'm fine. It's fine. We all have to feel sad. It's fine. And Matt's mother says, "Oh, of course not. We would never think such a thing. We would never think. We'd never. Why would you? We'd never think such a thing." Now, if
she'd been molested by her grandmother, we'd think it was related.
Right? There's a lot there. There's a lot there. First, obviously, the most upsetting thing is that connection of like trauma and queerness. You know, that there's something bad that had to happen to a straight person to make them queer. You know, and that's offensive. That's upsetting. People shouldn't think that way. She went on to say, you know, sometimes that happens when they feel the pleasure too young.
What?
They get confused. What is right? What is right? That is an appropriate reaction to that statement. Because in addition to the political issues with it, and the fact that feel the pleasure is a gross-ass phrase, I think she's really overestimating how much fun it is to be molested. Like it, I mean, I'm saying she's overestimating it. I'm saying it's bad. I'm saying at no point was I ever like, you know what? This is so good, I might need to change my sexual orientation over it. Right? Exactly. That's not what happens. It's not what happens. But apparently, in Matt's mother's brain, that's what happens. And Matt's just like, okay. I can't deal with this, and seems like things are not getting better. So I'm gonna go. I did what I came here to do. I can leave now in good conscience. And his mother says, wait, Matthew, do you have a lot of queer friends?
What?
Yes.
What? I mean, and Matt says the truth, which is, yeah. And his mother says, oh, in the theater, I suppose. And the thing is, I mean, there's some truth there as well.
Yeah.
There's some truth there as well. But Matt says, oh, and also just like, you know, from my life. And his mother says, Matthew, do you have any straight friends? And Matt says, yeah, my friend Kevin. Which is worse than if he'd said no. He's just like, my straight friend Kevin. I've got my straight friend Kevin. You know, it makes it sound like when he meets another straight person, he's like, have you met my straight friend Kevin? I assume you all know each other. All the straights. All the straights know each other. And so Matt comes home, and I'm like, oh, babe, how'd it go? He's like, I feel like ashamed because, like, even though I didn't do anything wrong, I've, like, learned something about the people who raised me that I didn't fully understand before, and I feel like I've let you down, and like I've let the community down, and I just feel awful, and I feel like I've done something wrong, even though I know I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, ha-ha, sucker! That's why I didn't want to do it. His parents also decided to sit down with both of us to have a chat, all four of us, about why this is not a pairing they support. What? They don't ship it. His mother said to me, you know, Lily, it just seems like you are very dominating. Seems like you are always telling Matthew what to do. And you know, that is not healthy. It is not healthy in a relationship where one person is always telling the other person what to do, and that other person doesn't get to have any say. I don't think that Matthew has any say in your relationship, and it sounds like you are just always telling him what to do, and it's not healthy, it's not good. And Howard agrees with me, he just doesn't want to say anything. I was like, takes one to know one, Carmen. Doesn't it? I was actually very civil during this conversation, especially given the accusations being hurled at me, until she came after my parents. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. It's ill-advised, and also, my parents are cool as fuck. My mom once told me, you know, Lily, you can call me after a bad threesome. if you can't call your mother in that moment, who can you call? I was like, I mean, there's literally 7 billion other people on the planet. I'm sure I could find one. But thank you. It's a nice thought. Matt's mom said to me, no, I'm sure your parents do not support it either. I'm sure they do not like it either. It's just that they don't say anything. And I was like, no, my parents are cool. I was like, my mom says she fully supports me in being the person that I am and having the relationships I want to have. Yes. My mom was actually a marriage counselor for many years, and she says she's seen firsthand the damage that monogamy can do, and she doesn't think anyone should do it unless they really, really want to, and she supports me in being intentional about the relationships that I choose and doing what's right for me.
Woo!
Woo! Hell yeah.
And Matt's mom said, I cannot deal with this, I have to go to Peru. They don't. His sister actually hates me for a whole other reason. They don't hate me for the same reason his sister hates me. His sister hates me because I'm a professional cuddler. Or I was, before the pandemic. Not anymore, not in pandemic times, but before, I was a professional cuddler. And I know that gives people a lot of questions right off the bat, so I'm just gonna run through them. I saw the quizzical look upon your face. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm gonna explain it all. First question people usually have is, what's that? A person, a man, it's a man, with a lot of money, gives you that money, and in exchange, you cuddle him. It is that simple, and that weird. And the second question I get a lot is like, so are the guys kind of strange? And I'm like, yeah, they are. I had a guy once who said, oh, you're an actor. And I was like, mm-hmm. And he was like, I want to do a scene with you. And so he got in between my legs and said to me, Mommy, again, what is it with guys saying mommy? I don't know. Mommy, the world is stressful, and I want to go back to where I came from. And proceeded to try to headbutt his way inside me. And I was like, well, that's the end of that session. That was the end of that. I do not know what his plan was. He was not a small man. And my pelvic floor is very tight. People also ask, like, oh, do any of your clients, like, sexually harass you? Yeah. But here's the thing. As a woman in the world, and especially as a comic, I get sexually harassed all the time for free. As a cuddler, I get sexually harassed for $90 an hour. Woo! Yes! I get paid what I am worth. You gotta monetize your skills. If you're good at something, never do it for free. I'm good at being sexually harassed, who knew? And it has also taught me the secret to getting a man to respect you when you say no. Y'all want to learn it?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Because if you just say no, it's just like pew pew, right over their head. So what you got to do when a man's like being creepy, being persistent, you're like, I don't want any part of this. Just do it with me right now. Just take a deep breath. And you center yourself. And you call on your divine, feminine, goddess energy. And you say, that costs extra! They do not like that. That's what I've learned. But sometimes they're willing to pay the extra. I had a guy who paid me, in addition to the $90 an hour, $400 to kiss me. I was, yeah. And I know that when people hear that, they're like, is that technically sex work? Really, it felt more like dental work. At one point, he said to me, wow, this is great. I can fit my whole mouth inside your mouth. And I was like, can is not the same as should, buddy. And at one point, he told me to stick out my tongue. So I stuck out my tongue. And he started petting it. Petting it. This is before COVID, obviously. Started petting my tongue. And he said, such a pretty little tongue. Right? Right? Some real Hannibal Lecter vibes there, right? So I was like, cutting out my tongue and eating it costs extra. I know we've talked a lot about sex, but I also have some thoughts on love. I have some essays that I've written, and I'd like to read them to you now. Love is when you dislocate your jaw giving a blowjob, and you still finish the blowjob. Are you? Did you? That just. Matt would want me to tell you that he did not realize my jaw was dislocated, and that if he had, he would not have encouraged me to finish. The thing is, we both thought my jaw was just stuck open. Which can happen, and it happened to me once before getting dental work, where my jaw wasn't dislocated, because when it's dislocated, it's actually off the hinge. I know, yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. But it can also just get stuck open because the muscle gets tight. And when that happened to me during dental work, the dentist just gagged me, and my jaw went back into, just went back down. So, as I'm finishing the blowjob, I'm trying to gag myself to get my jaw to release. And I'm like, okay, it's all right, that isn't working, okay. Okay. Which, in retrospect, is probably good that did not work, because I probably would have bitten that stick off and had other problems. But after the blowjob is over, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it with my fingers. So I'm sitting on the floor of the shower, just naked and wet and cold, just gagging myself. And it's not working. It's just making me nauseated. It's not working. So I start to get a little freaked out. I get out of the shower. And my jaw was dislocated for about an hour total. It was incredibly painful. And at one point, I turned to Matt and I was like, this is love. This is love. And he was like, no, but it's a really good metaphor for what it's like to date you. You're always doing things to make me happy and then hurting yourself. And I'm like, I didn't ask you to do that. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I'm like, whatever, it's love. You're not liars. And I start to get more and more freaked out. And I'm like, call my mom. Call my mom. And Matt's like, no, I'm going to call my mom. Because his mom is a nurse. So, yeah. So he's thinking that she'll be able to help. She was not able to help. Matt told her that I had dislocated my jaw doing vocal exercises. And I'm like, well, I guess it wasn't a totally silent activity. Not wrong. Okay. And his mother says, oh, just tell her to put a warm compress on it and then go to the dentist in the morning and they'll be able to close it for her. And I start just crying because I'm like, I can't wait till the morning. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. You have to call my mom. Have to. So Matt calls my mom and gives her the same lie about vocal exercises. And my mom is like, oh, yeah, super easy. Just hold her jaw and have her open her mouth straight, and as long as you hold it straight, it'll just pop right back into place. And it did. It was great. Now you all know, if this happens to you, that's how you fix it. Call my mom. She'll tell you. So after that, I'm like, okay, thank God. Very scary, very painful, but it's over now. And I say to Matt, you could have told my mom the truth. My mom's cool. We established she's cool. And Matt says, oh no, I never want your mother to think about my penis. You can tell her about my penis, but I'm not gonna bring it up. And if she brings it up to me, I will deny it. My first love was Natalie Kim in the 4th grade. My crush on Natalie was formative, albeit brief. It ended when I invited her to my Halloween sleepover party, and she asked who else was coming. Rachel and Stephanie, I said, naming the 2 other girls in our math group. There were other guests, of course, but I thought that Rachel and Stephanie would be the most enticing to Natalie. No, I don't want to come, she said. Okay, rude. And good luck getting me to ever give you the answers in math group again. Just kidding. I still gave her the answers, but it's because I'm an egomaniac and I liked the idea that she couldn't function without me, not because I was in love with her, okay? I have self-esteem. My first love was probably actually Thalia. We had that type of intense, obsessive friendship that you only have time for before life gets complicated. We played pretend games after all of the other kids had moved on to soccer for the coordinated ones, or video games for the uncoordinated ones. We kissed a few times, practicing, and once, accidentally, she turned out straight. Good for her. So maybe my first love was Yami. Finally, someone who wasn't straight, like Thalia, or just an absolute little bitch like Natalie. But Yami was allergic to feelings. And I am 100% organic, unprocessed feelings all the time. After we broke up, she decided that relationships were just not worth it and started identifying as an asexual lesbian. We're still friends. She says I'm her best friend, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're like kind of in the best friend tier for me. I gotta say, after the way things ended between us, it feels good to be the one emotionally withholding from her. There was a laugh of like, I've had plenty of relationships with men too, of course, but they don't fit a narrative, or at least they don't fit this narrative, where no one can ever really completely love me back, or maybe be meaningfully attracted to me at all. Megan is an on-again, off-again partner of Matt's. They have broken up 7 times. And every time, Matt is like, oh, yeah, no, I think it's really over. And I'm like, fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me 7 times, I'd have to be a fucking idiot. For a while, Megan seemed to really like me. She started saying things like, I want to like bring you home and have you meet my parents and tell them that you're my girlfriend because they don't believe that I'm bi, but the only thing is we have to like make out a lot to really sell it. Right? That's a cringy way of flirting. But I cut her some slack because I knew that her previous experiences with women amounted to a couple of drunken kisses with her sorority sisters. And I felt pretty confident that she was into me because she straight up asked Matt if it would be okay if she had sex with me. But then as soon as I was like, so, do you want want to make this happen? She was shocked, offended that I would make such an advance to her when she'd given me no indication that it would be welcome. And I wish that the Megans of the world were few and far between. But the truth is that I see them. I wish that the Megans of the world were few and far between. But the truth is, I see them all the time. I see them in a friend of mine who seems to really like to use the words queer partner to refer to women she's been on like 5 dates with. I see it in, well, at the same time saying, I hope she didn't expect me to like, I hope she doesn't expect me to like have sex with her. I see it in another ex of Matt's who says things like, every time I'm attracted to women, it's like, what do we even do? Like, can't we just frolic? Frolic? We've done a great job, and especially in the last few years, of really embracing this party line of like, everyone's bisexual identity is equally valid and 100% good, and we can't question any of it. And I understand why. Bi and pan people are excluded from a lot of spaces, and we don't want to exclude anyone from ours. It's a good party line. I do my best to toe it. But sometimes it feels like an invitation to every girl who's kissed a girl and liked it, to come into our spaces and treat women who fall in love with and have sex with each other like we're crazy. Like there's something wrong with us for not intuitively understanding that you're just supposed to make out to sell a point to your parents. That queer partner means girl I've taken some selfies with. That really, all we're supposed to want to do with each other is frolic. I don't want to frolic. And for women like me, who had early experiences of wondering if maybe we were alone in the world, wondering if maybe there was something wrong with us, being around the frolickers kind of feels like my first 3 loves all over again. I ran into Megan recently after not seeing her for about a year. And she started in with the same like, oh my God, like wouldn't it be like so funny if we dated? Like people are always like, oh my God, like why don't you date Lily? And I'm like, I don't know, because like that'd be crazy, right? Yeah, I said. That'd be bad for multiple reasons. And I walked away.
Ooh.
Right. The funny thing is a friend of Megan's, who I met once at her half birthday, also tried to have sex with me. I'm gonna read you those Facebook messages right now, because they are a doozy. Okay. And this, pulling them up. There's nothing I think you need to know going into this. He's just like a random ass white dude named Noah. Nothing really special there. And he says, question, hopefully not too direct. Are you looking for another male play friend? And I'm like, this is not a guy who really knows a lot of non-monogamous terminology, but that's fine. Everyone starts somewhere. I also love like, oh yeah, not to be too direct, but like, can I fuck you though? Yeah, not to be too direct. And the thing is, I was not. I was very full up on partners. I was dating Matt, and then I also was dating 2 women, Camille and Shade, and I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time. But I would be interested in having an MMF threesome. Because that was something I was trying to set up for myself at the time. And yes, my sister.
Get it.
Hi, let's be friends. For those of you for anyone who either, I don't know, doesn't have a lot of threesomes or doesn't watch a lot of porn, it's a quick terminology thing. There are many types of threesomes. The ones we'll be discussing today are MMF, which is male, male, female, which is, yes, two gentlemen and a lady, such as myself. We'll also eventually reference FFM threesomes, which would be two ladies and a gentleman. All classy people. All classy people. Anyway, I was like, yeah, no, you can fuck me as long as my boyfriend's there. I think that's a good deal. Whatever. So I say, kind of full up on individual partners, honestly. But if you'd be down for an MMF threesome with zero contact between the guys, definitely let me know. And he writes back, counter offer. MFF. And then a thoughtful emoji. I don't know what makes him feel thoughtful about that. Okay. He's a little thoughtful. I'm like, it's not really what I wanted, but like, I'm trying to make a deal, you know? I'm Monty Hall. I'm like, okay, let's make a deal. Let's figure it out. We can do this. So I say, thoughtful emoji. Who's the other girl? Because I think that's a relevant fucking question, don't you? I think that's a really fucking relevant question. I say, I already have FFM threesomes pretty regularly, but under the right circumstances, would be willing to trade. Because again, I'm here to make a deal. I would be willing to trade an FFM threesome or FFMM foursome. And I say, that's my preference, honestly, for an MMF threesome. Because here's the thing. Odd numbers are odd for a reason. Yeah, y'all get it. Y'all get it. Sex is just better with even numbers. It's better with two than with one. It's better. and it's better with four than with three. You know, with three there can be like some awkwardness. Someone's like hogging someone else's genitals. It's like a whole mess. And like honestly, I've had FFM threesomes like ruin friendships. Man, yeah, you get it. There is no one I hate more than a woman I've had a bad threesome with. Yeah, you get. That's just true shit, man. That's just true shit. Yeah. Oh well. So he says, no other woman in mind currently, but not out of reach. And I'm like, how do you plan to acquire this woman? It made me think of those people who are really into primitive hunting techniques, and they do this thing where they just like cover themselves in mud, and they just like wait in a blind all day, and they become like one with the forest, and they don't move, and like the mud masks their scent, so eventually, if they wait long enough, a deer will just like walk by them, not realizing that there's a human in that blind, and they just wait. They wait for the deer to get close enough, and then they leap out and have a threesome with it. So I'm like, how? Okay, all right. I guess I gotta meet people somehow. And he says, I'm happy to be a pawn in your regular overdone FFMs. Oh, are you? Oh my god, that's so sweet. Oh my god. Thank you, how generous. So I say, well, if you ever do line up another woman, I think that's a big if, but okay. And I say, and I like her well enough, because I think that's an important caveat, we can talk about an FFM threesome then, or foursome, because again, even is better than not. But I'm here to negotiate, but I'm not going to negotiate against myself. So I say, in exchange for an MMF threesome, of course. And then he responds, a little bit after midnight that night, with this. And I don't know how well you can see that. People up there, I don't know if you can see. This is a picture of me with my straight friend, Alex. I have a straight friend too, Matt. It's me with my straight friend, Alex. This is a picture that is on my Facebook. So Noah, yeah, someone's ahead of us here. Noah went on my Facebook, downloaded this picture, and then messaged it to me.
Oh, God.
No, with a thoughtful emoji. It's very thoughtful about it. Very thoughtful. Very thoughtful. And I write back, that's my straight friend, Alex. And then he says, maybe I was being a little too greedy before. And then a winky face. And then the word sorry with an exclamation point. And there's a lot there. So I say, how do you mean? Because I want to give him just enough rope to hang himself with. So then, this random ass white dude named Noah says, I was picturing myself sliding. That's a word, sliding. That's a word.
I don't like that one.
I don't like it either. I was picturing myself sliding into one of your FF hookups. Which, like, there's also a lot there. Like, apparently I can't have a relationship with a woman. I'm having an FF hookup. So, okay. Happily adding myself. Oh, would you be happy? And making a happy, again, that word, happy, FFM. No. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Were you picturing that? Sliding. There are things that can slide. A slip and slide. The cha-cha. Not your random ass. Into an FFM threesome. It's like he thinks that I'm just like lying in bed with Camille, and it's just like, oh, we'd love to have sex. But you know what's missing? A random ass white dude named Noah. Then he says, I've never had an MFM, which like he has so much, right? He has so much internalized homophobia that he can't put the M's next to it. He's like, M, not gay if it's in a three-way. M. But I'd be open to trying someday with enough alcohol. Right? Like, you were like, oh, good, he'd be open to trying. Oh, with enough alcohol. Yeah, that's insulting. That is never what you want to hear. It's like, oh, I'd love to have sex with you. First, let me impair my judgment enough that I can have sex with you. It's not the flattery he seems to think it is. And then he says, lastly, the original question I asked you is still valid. Was it ever valid, Noah? Still implies it was ever valid, but okay. I'm open to having sex with you one-on-one. Oh, so sweet. So sweet. Then he says, understanding that you don't have space for me in your permanent rotation.
My artillery.
And yeah, he's, there's a lot there. I feel like this happens a lot with guys, where they're like, I'd like to have sex with you. And I'm like, oh, I don't really have the time to take on new partners. And they go, how about we just have sex once? And I'm like, that's not the counteroffer you think it is. If I wanted to have sex with you just once, I would tell you. There's also the thing of like, I think this is true for everyone, but I think it's especially true for women. that the first time you have sex with someone is probably not going to be the best time. Obviously, you were amazing the first time, babe. You're amazing. You're a star. But generally, the first time is going to be, you know, kind of like working out the kinks and figuring out, like, you know, what the other person likes and getting comfortable with each other. So when someone is like, oh, well, if you don't have time to have sex with me a bunch, maybe let's just have sex once. What I hear is, how about we have sex and it's bad for you? Exactly. That's what we all hear. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they think that's a good pitch. And then, at 2:01 that morning, he just texts me a single thoughtful emoji. And I'm like, oh, the thoughtful emoji means he's masturbating. Get it now. There's a reason we can't see the emoji's other hand. So at this point, I'm like, okay, whatever. There's no point engaging with this. This is just a time suck. But I tell the story to my partner, Shade. And I'm like, it's so ridiculous. Like, oh my God, this guy, this behavior. And she's like, right. Like, obviously, if we were going to have a threesome with the guy, we'd pick Matt probably. And I was like, right. Or like your boyfriend David is like so cute. And she was like, I know, right? And she was like, I totally hear you about foursomes being better than threesomes though. You know, it's so true, it's so true. And we looked at each other and it was like, oh, we should all have a foursome. Oh, there, okay. Yeah, no, that's the obvious natural conclusion to this. And so we did. And you know who we did not invite? A random ass white dude named Noah. This is the portion of the show where I grab some water. And I also, oh, well, apparently, okay.
What's up?
No, I'm fine. I just can't, hold things. I have water.
Okay.
This is the portion, because I know that I've, like, laid a lot of concepts out, told a lot of stories, told you some deep shit. And I always like to give people a moment to, like, get their money's worth and ask, like, any questions that they have. Because sometimes people are like, wow, I'd really, really love to hear more about, like, you know, the non-monogamy thing or the kink thing, or, like, do you have tips on how to arrange a threesome? Boy, do I mean, I've just gotten a whole primer on what not to do. So this is the moment where I open it up for any questions that people have. For me, sometimes people just want to ask questions of Matt. They're just like, you seem more interesting than Lily. So I'm just going to go get some water, and you can call out any questions you have. Yes!
So as you know, I was intrigued by the professional peddler part.
Yeah!
And I just want to know, because I know that you did mention that is it really just always guys, or was there ever a time that it was a woman?
I would say I saw about 100 clients and one was a woman. So it is overwhelmingly men who pay for cuddling. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think women have an easier time getting their needs for touch met outside of a relationship. Because you do see women who like will get cuddly with their friends, or even at least hug their friends. I think men are more likely to be touch starved, and so they're more likely to be willing to pay for it. I also think that there's the obvious thing of like men are more likely to have the economic power to drop $90 an hour on having someone hug them. So yeah, I did have one client who was a woman, and she was very sweet and didn't sexually harass me at all, and was like super respectful of all my boundaries, and I was like, that's nice. That's nice. But yeah, if you want to monetize people sexually harassing you, I recommend it. It's be very lucrative.
What do you do when you have sex with somebody once, and you've been talking for a while, and you have sex with them, and then things are like a little different. But they say they want to see you, but you can't. You don't know how to instigate it again.
Okay. Are you when you say instigated again? Do you mean like?
Just even seeing them, just like seeing them again.
And when you say things are a little different, what do you
Like
mean?
texting back or talking is happening in way longer periods than usual.
Oh. I mean, I can tell you what I would do. I'm not saying it's good advice. I'm just saying.
I want to know.
what I would do.
I want to hear it.
I would be like, would you like to come over to my place and have sex on this day at this time? And if they can't make it work, then don't bother. You know?
But that's what you want anyway. That's like what I want anyway.
Yeah. Just say that. And if they're, I have found that no one who is worth having sex with will get offended if you say that directly.
That's fair.
Right? Yeah, like the people who need it to be like a game where it's like, oh, like I don't even know if I or do I or like I don't know, I'm basically like a virgin, but like the people who want that whole game, like they don't know where the clitoris is. So like not worth it.
It's a
It's not
joke.
gonna be worth it.
That's true.
Was the sex worth it to have again though?
Yeah, it was good.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
yeah.
I don't wanna give you any advice that could lead to you having bad sex.
No, it was good the first time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can have good first time sex, get a second time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it will go up. It will, presumably, it will improve. All right, I believe in you.
Thank
Let me know
you.
how it goes. Believe in you. All right, anyone else have any problems? Any questions? Any advice I can give?
Any advice you can give?
Yeah, or give me advice. Tell me how to live my life.
I have no advice. I need help.
Oh no,
No, not.
I'm here for you.
No. I need advice.
What's the thing you need advice on?
Oh no, Gabby just told you my sex life, but like from her perspective.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see. It was a
Yeah.
whole game of telephone. I
Yeah.
believe in you.
There's a lot of
Appreciate
30-year-old
it.
women willing to talk this out with you later.
Pardon?
There's a lot of 30-year-old women willing to talk this out with you
Oh,
later.
good.
Yeah.
They'll probably have better advice than I have.
I don't know about that.
Honestly, that was like I have
I'm
found.
new to the world. I'm new to the world, I will say. I dated the same boy since high school for so long. I'm new.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you. It's been fun. And then COVID came and it wasn't as fun. And it was like more of a health concern than anything else.
All right, you don't gotta put your faces together though. You know?
That's fair, that's fair.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How have you been handling your non-monogamy during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Well, for a while. Well. So, Matt, how much of your shit can I spell?
As much as you want, babe.
Okay, thanks. You know, see, every now and again, I show him like the barest minimum of respect. And I'm so difficult most of the time that like he finds it like really sweet whenever I treat him like a human being. So when I first came up back in March, Matt had a partner who. Hey. Hello. 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 Who was terrible and emotionally abusive, and threatened to kill herself if we didn't come shelter with her. Yeah, I did not enjoy the vibe. I made it about a week and a half at her place, and it was really bad. And I've been encouraging him to leave the relationship for a while because I was like, this is bad. This is bad and you should get out. But Matt, he kept being like, well, maybe if I just wait long enough, she won't upset me so much. And I was like, that is not how this works. So for a while, we had like a little pod with her. And then eventually she did so much stuff, you know, the threatening suicide and the, like she'd listen in on our conversations and comment on them. And it was like a whole moment. She said that she wanted us to supervise her while she did a ketamine day.
Oh man.
Yeah. And she was like trying to make it sexy to Matt. I wasn't in the room for this, but she was trying to make it sexy to Matt. And she was like, you know, when I do ketamine, like I just get so handsy with people. You know, like I might even come on to Lily.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, I know. Yeah, so sometimes I guess that's people think that's a compliment. I'm gonna get chemically altered and hit on you. And Matt was like, if you do that, Lily will leave the room. Lily will have no interest in that moment. I see you. I will get there. Anyway, so we left, and Matt broke up with her, which I think needed to happen anyway. And then for a while we had a bubble that included Matt's partner Aaron, who was delightful. I also, if you ever have like metamor drama, where you don't like your metamor and it's like, or I guess if you're the hinge partner where two metamors don't like each other, I really recommend having a truly awful partner, and then everyone else seems great in comparison. I was like, yeah, I was too harsh on Jessie. Jessie was just like a little tedious and like I didn't really gel with them, but like they never tried to like tell us that we had to text them before we had sex. I should have been nicer to Jessie. So relationship advice. Anyway, so we left that situation. So for a while we were part of a bubble with his partner Aaron, who then left for Afghanistan. She's great. She works for the DOJ. Sorry, not DOJ. Yes, DOJ. For the Inspector General, rooting out corruption in foreign governments. So we had like a little bubble with her. And then after she left, I did not. Shade decided to bubble with her partner, her nesting partner, and her boyfriend, who were two different people. So I kind of we are not in that bubble, which is a downer, but I understood, So I still text her, and then now we occasionally have a third who is a guy named Connor who is sheltering with his grandmother, so he doesn't see anyone but us. So that's an incredibly, I just wanted to tell all the crazy stories. So that's an incredibly long-winded way of saying, at different points, we have had like one other person in our little bubble. So that's that. Sorry, what?
It's hard. I'm glad you haven't had to lose him.
It is hard. I mean, we
Well.
lost the one, but I was happy with that. So yeah, we've been very lucky. I know you have lost,
But I haven't.
but yeah, you just suddenly long distance.
Yeah.
I remember you had a question.
Yeah, what's a ketamine day?
Is that the question you asked?
Well, because it's recording, I'm not going to say that I've had experience with ketamine, but a whole day of ketamine seems pretty red flaggy.
It was not, yes. Matt, just turn around and nod and be like, yes. Yes.
Not a ketamine hour, a ketamine day.
A whole ketamine day. Yeah, she had once been given ketamine in a medical context.
Yeah. Okay.
And decided that COVID would be like a cool opportunity to buy some on the street and take it. Which is not. Here's the thing: is like I've never even had alcohol, so I have like no perception of what substances do, really. But I mentioned this weirdly enough to my boss. I have a very strange relationship with my boss. She's like, "Oh my God, the next time you go to a dungeon, you have to bring me." So great boundaries there. But I mentioned this to my boss, and my boss used to be a bartender. And so she was around stuff all the time, and she was like, don't be around someone who is taking ketamine recreationally. It's very dangerous. And like, if you have to call an EMT, it could be like a whole nightmare for you. She was like, I used to do coke all the time. And I would not touch ketamine.
I can vouch for those exact words.
Yes. Like, I do coke all the time, but I would not touch ketamine.
Dude, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Ketamine
Yeah.
is a
So
whole-
yeah, if you take anything away from this, do cocaine, not ketamine.
I think we're just gonna leave the Q&A out of the recording.
Yeah, it'll be us.
Quick question.
I kind of hope the answer to this is no. But are any of the dungeons or clubs offering right now?
They are actually.
Wow.
Yeah, they're operating generally at like 25% capacity. And the people who go tend to be like people who like have like 9-year-old-ish kids who are like aware of their presence and want to be around them all the time. That you can't just like put to bed or like give them a laptop and be like, fuck off, kid. So it tends to be, at least that's my understanding, is the people who are going are generally like parents who like need somewhere to have sex. They can't have it in the house and they can't like wait for their kid to go to soccer.
You can't put Jacob's cross up in the...
That is frowned upon. So, so Matt and I have not gone out because we can have sex other places. But yeah, so they are operating generally at extremely reduced capacity. I like to think that they are operating safely or as safely as they can, but since we don't need to avail ourselves of that, we have not. We are responsible citizens.
What is the biggest misconception people have about you?
Snaps from my audience clan.
Yay.
The biggest misconception people have about me is that I'm the character I play on TV. I call her the Lily Show. You've all been watching her for an hour and some change. I hope you've enjoyed her.
Yay!
I live for the applause. I think she's pretty funny.
Yeah.
She says things like, "No one I hate more than a woman I've had a bad threesome." That's some true ass shit. I stand by that. Sometimes she dislocates her jaw giving a blowjob, and that is also 100% true. But then sometimes people interact with me as if my extremes are all that I have. My straight friend Alex once said to me in front of our entire friend group, "You need to make some platonic friends." No, straight people, man. And of course I shot back, "Well, I'm never gonna have sex with you." But it still kind of stung that that's how she thinks of me. And Matt says she probably doesn't even really think of me like that. It's just that I have this larger than life persona that makes people feel like they're on a sitcom. They don't think I can get hurt any more than Rose got hurt on Golden Girls when someone said something mean to her. I'm told I come off like I'm bulletproof. I'm not bulletproof. Matt says you can never trust a comic. Because they will always tell you the funny version of the story and not the true one. The truth is, I have a couple other things going on. I am not just the Lily Show. But that's what's funny about it. So I lean into it. And for a while, I did try to pull back on it. I called it canceling the Lily Show. I tried to be more down to earth, not feel like I had to make everything funny, a little quieter, a little more reserved. But the truth is, I'm kind of an extreme person. Like, this is not a personality that works outside of the entertainment industry. It's just not. I sometimes like to tell people I exist slightly outside the realm of psychological realism. I once took a bunch of pictures of Matt's various exes, framed them, and put them all on a wall together. Right? That's some crazy shit!
No, it's not. It's not.
She's like, don't do that.
It's not a good idea.
I mean, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. That's something that if you saw it in a sitcom, you'd be like, well, obviously no real person would do such a thing. Am I a real person? Who can say? I'm kind of a messy bitch. I like to entertain people. The other day, I texted my straight friend Alex, and I said, hashtag that moment when you tell a guy you're planning a threesome with that he can't hit you in the face because you recently dislocated your jaw, and he gives it a heart react. Like, what about that moment makes you go, heart? Right? And she wrote back, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. Your life is so interesting. How did you dislocate your jaw? And I said, you're gonna love this. It's a classic episode of The Lily Show. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Woo!